Right. Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this Friday's briefing for the Inclusive Entrepreneur Network. It's lovely to see everybody. Okay, so I'm Jacqueline Winstanley. I'm the founder and CEO of Universal Inclusion and the Inclusive Entrepreneur. I'm a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. I lead on the Women in Enterprise APPT on diversity and inclusion. I also have a number of UK and international roles in either a non-executive, an ambassador, or advisory board chair. What I'd like to do now, if that's okay with everybody, is introduce yourselves. Lady Sharon, could you start us off, please?
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Jacqueline, inviting me to this today. My name is Lady Sharon. I am the owner of Glamsticks. I take the dull out of disability. I bespoke mobility aids for people with disabilities, from running blades, which you can see behind me, and the actual ones there, to wheelchair covers, walking sticks and what have you. So that is myself, Lady Sharon. Thank you.
That's lovely, thank you. I'm going to do two introductions from colleagues who have sent in video links for us. So if you could possibly share Monzo, please.
Hello everybody. My name is Muir. I am 40 years old and I have cerebral palsy. I use an electronic wheelchair to get around outside and a walking frame when indoors. I also use an electronic talk box and basic DSL to communicate. Over the past 20 years I have been committed to the disability movement. I have worked for considerable periods of time with various organizations such as Scope, Walsall Partnership Board, Walsall Link, Health Watch Walsall, Walsall Service Users Empowerment and the National Centre for Independent Living. I have represented local disabled people as chair of my local Physical Disability and Sensory Impairment Board for 5 years, and I worked with my local council in an effort to form a local ILC. I have also been a member and a supporter of DRUK since its inception. One of my aspirations has always been to become an entrepreneur. Since October I have started taking steps to start a business selling silk and wooden flowers. I have looked at various wholesalers and found one I would like to purchase from. I also have managed to find an accountant and secure a cabin at a garden centre where I can sell my products from. I was due to order my stock from the wholesalers and start using the cabin in April, however. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, both the wholesalers and garden centre had to shut, meaning I had to postpone starting my business. I was also trying to apply for access to work, but due to the coronavirus they have stopped accepting applications. To overcome the difficulties the coronavirus has caused for me, Jacqueline is going to help me with my access to work application. I also aim to start purchasing flowers and selling from the garden centre as soon as I can. In the meantime, I am looking at ways I could start selling online through Amazon and eBay. I am aware that it could potentially take me a long time to build up my business and I may face setbacks during this time. However, my long-term goal is to expand the business and have shops in multiple locations. I would also like to renovate and let out houses. The latter aspiration has come from me watching homes under the hammer over numerous years.
Hi, my name's Steve Hopwood. I'm a double amputee after a car knocked me off my motorbike back in 1986. And as a result of my injuries, I lost my right arm above the elbow and my right leg below the knee. I returned to work a year after my accident and tried to stay in mainstream work, but all I was ever offered was menial type jobs. I tried various different jobs over the years, but couldn't settle. It was almost like being, let's give the disabled guy the job up the corner, so at least the employer had done their duty. I couldn't settle, so finally, in 2005, I took the big step and became self-employed. But unfortunately, I found there was no support network, and I struggled on my own. Physically, there's tasks I couldn't do. But eventually, I heard of Access to Work, and they offered support, financial support, and money towards adaptations. But every year, it was a battle to get through the bureaucracy system. The effort to jump through the hoops and loops of the system was getting harder and harder. I even told them I don't suffer from amphibian tendencies. In other words, my arm and leg aren't going to grow back. I have a permanent and substantial disability. Unfortunately, my sense of humour didn't really, they didn't understand my sense of humour, and my frustration just got worse and worse. I now transport luxury cars for a living. If I can sit in a chair and watch telly, I can sit in my scooter and take my dog for a walk. So if I can sit there and take my dog for a walk in a scooter or sit and watch telly, I can drive a vehicle. So I've set up Swift and Share SCT, where I tow a trailer, a big covered car trailer, and collect cars from here or there and deliver to here, there, and everywhere where the customer requires. That was doing not too bad until COVID struck, and literally my business stopped overnight. I've had the odd small job which has dribbled through here and there, but basically COVID has been disastrous for me. So, like what I've done since 1986, I've had to adapt and change. And I've always found that people have said I'm inspirational and interesting. So I thought, right, let's write a book. Let's see if I can get into the presentation, inspirational market, speaker market, and to see whether I can make something out of that. And I'm having to adapt because it's about business and not benefits. And I feel that the Access to Work scheme is administered by the wrong department. It's run by the Department of Work and Pensions, which are governed towards benefits. In other words, people who don't want to work, unable to work, or can't work for some reason. It should be through the Department of Work and Pensions, Department of Trade, where people like us, self-employed businessmen, work hand in hand with government departments who are used to dealing with business people. That's me in a short nutshell. Goodbye.
I wonder if Helene could introduce herself, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jacqueline. I'm Helene Martin-G, and I'm very happy always to join this group of energising people. I'm founder of Pink Shoe, a serial entrepreneur, a non-executive director, and a House of Lords advisor on entrepreneurship and international affairs. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much. Jayne?
Right, thanks. So I'm Jayne Cordell, and I'm a co-director with Hormones of Results CIC, which provides coaching and personal development training to people who feel excluded. Thanks.
Hormones?
Co-director of Results CIC and trustee of 42nd Street, which works on mental health for young people.
Lovely, thank you. James?
I'm James. I'm a musician, songwriter from the Northwest. I'm also deaf as well, and have been since birth. And yeah, I'm just writing music and releasing music under my name, James Holt.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Susan?
Good afternoon, I'm Susan Greenwood. I'm going to take a leaf out of Helene's book and introduce myself as a serial entrepreneur. I've run several social enterprise, several charities over the years. I work with Pink Shoe, and I've done some work with Jacqueline and would like to carry on doing some bits with Jacqueline. And disability is my background. I also work with the judiciary and have an Access to Work fund that helps me do that. I'm registered blind.
Thank you so much. John?
John Cowan. I run a company called Spirit Motorsport. Been in the motorsport sector for a number of years, putting various deals together for drivers. Was involved pre-lockdown in sort of hospitality. Obviously, that's all stopped now. Also launched a sort of a sub-venture called Spirit Air, which is private air charter services. That's also been grounded because of the quarantine, and feeling very bit fed up at the moment and a bit dejected. I had a chance to potentially put a deal together with someone from Belgium, and then within about 30 seconds realised that the current quarantine rules just mean it can't happen. So frustrated at that.
Okay, thank you. Noreen?
Thank you, Jacqueline. Hi, everyone. My name is Noreen Tresario. I am the principal and founder of Market Accents, which is a thought leadership, strategic marketing and communications agency. I have a trade specialism, and through that I'm participating on a global and local level to make sure that women-owned enterprises have access to markets and can grow. I am a member of Pink Shoe together with Helen and Jacqueline and Susan and Sharon. I'm looking across the screen just to see who's present. Yes, I have one of the causes very dear to my heart is women's economic empowerment, where, as I said, I am both as a trustee and an NED and very active in those fields. Thank you.
Very welcome. Okay, Drew, could you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Drew Ledson. I'm an English to BSL interpreter, and today I'm working as a lip speaker with Jayne.
That's brilliant, thank you. And this is actually really, it's a learning curve, I think, for most people on Zoom in terms of, particularly I think for people within the deaf community, to try to make everyone feel as included as possible. But I'm really pleased that at least within our network, we do have Jayne, who's very experienced in this area, and it's a learning curve we're traveling together at the moment. So we will do our best to make it as accessible as possible, but we'll make sure that if there's anything that you miss after the session, we'll spend some time together making sure you're fully informed. Bijou, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, Jacqueline. Good afternoon, all. I've connected this call from in India, and about myself, I've been with IT industry for the last 22 years. And now I've decided to switch the career to choose entrepreneurship as a profession, as a career. So I'm just trying to get into the nitty-gritty and nuances of how can I groom myself as a first generation entrepreneur. So it's my privilege, and I consider myself to be learned from this in this session for people with wide experience and personal experience of working in as entrepreneurs. So that's what all about from my end, Jacqueline.
Lovely. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you. Abba, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Abba Graham, and I run a CIC called Aspiring Boldly. My main focus is the equality agenda, looking at all things equality, specifically looking at BME communities.
Lovely, thank you very much. Now we do have Grant with us, but he wasn't sure whether he had some work to do and he might be dipping in and out. But if you are here, Grant, that's great.
Hello, guys. My name's Grant Logan. I'm the founder of Ability Today. We're an online social enterprise providing support to our disabled community. And we've recently just launched an academy for disabled journalists in partnership with the National Council for the Training of Journalists, providing fully accessible course to disabled students up and down the country.
Which is really exciting. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we do within the session. We look at generic business advice. We look at disability related advice. We have a health and wellbeing session. We have a Q&A session, and we also have our guest speakers. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from Jayne and Hamoz at that part of the session today. So if we move on to the first part of our session, which is around generic business advice. So this is the part where we look at what's out there for everybody. What is government doing in response to the pandemic across the board? And we look at the self-employment income support scheme. Now, this is really interesting. And what I wanted to touch on today was, it's my understanding, and if anybody else has seen this, it'd be interesting to hear what your thoughts are. Government has extended some support for businesses, but they're now starting to be very specific that any second stage payment will be linked to your business suffering because of the pandemic past, I believe it's the 15th of July. So for example, businesses that have been brought into unlocking, so to speak, later than others, they would be eligible for some additional grants from the government and later stage payments than others. And that might particularly involve people such as the hospitality industry and hairdressers, barbers, etc., who are possibly not even going to be looking at anything before the 4th of July, if then. So there's a slide at the end of the presentation, if you recall, and that has all the links to what government is doing at the moment in terms of the financial support, but also the health and wellbeing support. So we now know in terms of back to work, things are put in place. The health and safety executive is in place to enforce things if people aren't adhering to what's being suggested. And from that point, again, there's a push at the moment to the government to reduce the 2-metre rule. People are very uneasy about the 2-metre rule and the impact that's going to be, particularly in the hospitality industry, as they start to open up. And the debate at the moment is between the scientists, who have their health and wellbeing, obviously, hats on, and the economists, who are very, very concerned about the economy. Okay, so I just want to, on that one, give you a little update. If you recall from last week, we looked at the COVID-19 discretionary business grant programme. And again, although the Chancellor did amend this, this is really so tight. There really aren't going to be many more people that will benefit from this. Okay, if we could move on now to disability specific support. So in terms of what are the issues, we're not really hearing anything different from our members and the disability community generally. There is still a voice not being heard, is probably the best way of explaining it. The recommendations that we have made to the Chancellor and government have been listened to a degree, but we've asked for clarity. We're going to look at the recommendations in a minute. In terms of response from government, again, any of your individual requests to ministers haven't been specifically answered to. There have been some slight amendments to the Access to Work Award, but again, we've asked for clarification. I think the best thing that they're doing at the moment is allowing people to submit the applications for payment via email, but there are some strict criteria to that. But if you can evidence that it's difficult for you to get out to the post office to post a hard copy, they will accept it as an email, to the new contingency email that they're operating. However, the sort of rationale to that is really interesting, because a lot of people are working with support workers remotely and so on. So that's really interesting, but they are at least responding. They are, if there's a genuine need to do this, they are allowing people to do it. And again, in terms of our way forward, we do have some exciting things to talk about, which we can't confirm yet. Those of you that were around the session we had with the Minister, Lisa Cameron, will know about our proposal to do an APPT for inclusive entrepreneurship. And that, I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. The RSA podcasts are proceeding, and again, people have now started to book themselves into those sessions, so those are really exciting. But I think what we do have at the moment is our voice is not being heard across government per se, but certainly things are moving forward with the new measures that we hope we'll be able to share with you very soon on how we'll have that real opportunity to do that. Okay, Just to run through the podcasts for those of you that haven't seen this before, we were fortunate in getting some RSA funding to produce 10 podcasts. And it was specifically to support what we're doing in response to COVID. 10 interactive sessions which offer online peer support, business strategy coaching, updates on government and other initiatives. We'll showcase a particular entrepreneur at each of the sessions alongside our health and wellbeing section. There will be a Q&A element, and it will share good practice, influence policy and society as we move forward from the pandemic. It will capture the stories of the entrepreneurs as they navigate the impact of the virus and make recommendations on how government and policymakers will support inclusive entrepreneurs. This is a new addition to our session, and I've deliberately left on 2 that have they've taken place because I wanted to update you on them. And this is an opportunity for you as well. If you want to showcase any of your events or any events that you're aware of, please let us know and we will put them on the Friday briefings. So in addition to the podcasts, the Inclusive Companies webinar, which gave us an opportunity to showcase what we're doing and the concept of inclusive entrepreneurship and inclusive economic growth, was really well attended, and we will get a link at the point they're ready to put that online. I certainly enjoyed delivering that session. It was, again, a learning curve in terms of accessibility, I think, for the host and ourselves. But, we can only get better as we learn how to navigate this technology. And actually, the providers themselves get their head around it. It's quite interesting that Zoom yet don't have a facility where we could have captions as we're going through the Zoom session. But all we can do is keep asking them to update, etc. And hopefully we're all going to learn together. So the other thing was the WIN conference, which took place on the 18th of June. Again, a very, very well attended event. And I know there were quite a number of us on that session. And I certainly thoroughly enjoyed that. It was great to be amongst some international entrepreneurs, and it was really interesting to do. The last one on here is, for those of you that have been with us quite a while, we usually do an annual event, and we've moved that event probably till, I think it's St. George's Day 2021. But what I'd like us to do is start to think about having a virtual expo, so we can actually put on one of our sessions, maybe extend it a little bit, and actually have a virtual marketplace for people to share with each other what we're actually trading in, but also be on the network itself. So I just want to reiterate the recommendations to the Chancellor, particularly in relation to the Access to Work Award. And a little bit of an update on this. We have had an invitation to meet with the Secretary of State, and we will take up that opportunity. So again, sometimes it's little steps, but we're definitely getting there in terms of getting our points across. So we've asked them, in terms of Access to Work, to suspend the annual cap, to fast track any new claims, to suspend the annual turnover requirement, which at the moment would be very unfair to expect our entrepreneurs who have an award, who've had such devastation within their businesses, to meet that requirement. To accept digital submission of payment requests. As I said earlier, this is being done in part, but not in its entirety. I guess, again, it's them not possibly understanding how we do work, and equally that our support workers may not be comfortable going to the post office. They do have their own health considerations as well. So there are lots of other issues that are impacting on us and how we can do this at the moment. We've asked for them to allow longer access to the mental health strand of the award, and to fast track any applications that relate to ergonomics when working from home. That our award periods be extended for 2 years without review, and to fast track any additionality claims relating to support workers who are self-isolating or on lockdown. I suppose we should add to that, really, when the track and trace eventually is up and running, that they may also be asked and directed to self-isolate beyond our current circumstances. To recognise and consider the way disabled entrepreneurs manage their complex health conditions, and consider additional measures of support which do not require us to give up our Access to Work award as part of the process. To amend the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme to recognise the particular needs of the disabled entrepreneur within it, and the creation of an all-party parliamentary group dedicated solely to inclusive entrepreneurship. And we would ask that you keep these in mind, and if you do get an opportunity within your own networks to raise these issues. Okay. I want to give you a little bit of an update on the APPG following off from our discussions with Lisa Cameron MP. Now, we're sort of going through the process, and Helen and I are very excited by this, as is the MP. However, until it actually comes to fruition, it's not a given. So we're doing everything that we can to actually get it up and running, and we will keep you informed, and hopefully we'll have a very exciting announcement with not too much of a gap from when we met with the Minister and the APPG being formed. So one of the things that we're talking about when we want to look at the APPG in terms of what might look like a work programme, and again, it's always interesting, and put some, if you have questions, put them in the chat as well, please, because it's really important that we represent you when we take this forward, and that we are covering everything that you feel we should be doing. So at the moment, we're looking at issues around raising awareness of the concept, the opportunities for innovation, and increasing inclusive economic growth. The removal of barriers to enterprise for people with protected characteristics. If you remember that the network covers opportunities for all people who have protected characteristics, particularly disabled entrepreneurs. To increase sector-specific business support in this area. We know there is business support out there, but it doesn't often look at the specific issues that we face as entrepreneurs. To increase the breadth and availability of practical support. To increase the understanding of government, policymakers, and the business sector in the ways the ways which people who have protected characteristics create enterprise. To establish sector-specific academic research in this area. To run a programme of events to further inclusive entrepreneurship here and internationally. To increase access to finance. To increase health and wellbeing support. Some of you will remember the days when within the Access to Work Award, there was opportunities for holistic treatments. Very necessary, particularly for disabled entrepreneurs. To establish a cohort of role models and peer support. And to enhance a digital platform to support entrepreneurs. Right, so this is a really exciting part of the session, and I'm keeping everything crossed that the tech works on this. So I would now like to welcome formally Jayne Cordell and Hamoz. I'm going to ask Hamoz to pronounce his last name again, because I've tried 3 times today and I get it wrong every time. And they are directors of Result CIC. So if I could pass over to Jayne and Hamoz.
Thank you very much to Jacqueline and Sarah for doing the slides. Can I just check if you can hear me clearly enough at the moment?
Yes.
Claire, do you have sound? Thank you, me now. So, thank you for the opportunity to meet you online. I wish it was over a cup of tea and a piece of cake. It would be so much better. But we're really interested to be here to get to know you, to learn about the network and how it works, and to try to benefit each other. And I think we'd love to have your questions, perhaps at the end if we've got a minute or two. So the name of our company, Result CIC, stands for Community Interest Company, or social enterprise. So we don't have shareholders, and we use any profit that we make surplus, we recycle it and use it to benefit more people. Our catchphrase is confidently different, because we use our own lived experience of being different in various ways to create an open and positive environment for learning. And we started to offer coaching, which used to be considered something for bosses and leaders and executives, to offer that same coaching to people who feel excluded. Our ethos, our way of thinking, is ask, don't tell. We're very keen on enabling and empowering people to discover in their own thoughts and their own experience was the best way forward for them. I put a few facts down on this first slide. We're 8 years old, and both of us almost are disabled, and a lot of the people who work with us are also disabled and have minority characteristics. We're based in the Northwest, like Jacqueline, in Salford, and we've seen growth, significant growth over the past couple of financial years. We're also absolutely honoured and privileged to receive a National Diversity Award when we were 3 years old in 2015. I'll just say a very quick word about me and then ask Hormus to tell us about him. So I was a musician, a professional musician like James, before becoming deaf, age 25. I've worked and I've studied in very male environments. I was soon to have been the first person, one of the first women in a Cambridge college, and I was the first deaf woman at my level to work in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the FCO, which I did for 10 years. I've experienced a lot of discrimination along the way, and I've learned to be assertive. I've learned the importance of really knowing yourself well in this process. And I love what I do. Absolutely love it. Always looking for partnerships. Hormus, how about you? Who are you?
I am Hormus Ahmadzadeh. I was waiting for Jacqueline to try and pronounce that, but I know how challenging that is.
Yeah, I know. I gave up. I will practice, I promise.
Well, it is quite unusual when you first see it, but I came over from Iran age 15, and the idea was to study and to go back. But at age 19, whilst I was doing my degree, I had to become a refugee to be able to stay in this country. So that obviously had certain challenges, which kind of added to the resilience that I had to adopt over the years. Because a couple of years later, one of the other challenges that I had was to come out as gay. And from a Middle Eastern background and some of the reactions I got, it was quite a tough period because of some of the reactions not being quite what I was hoping for. So further challenges at that point. And we fast forward back to 20 years ago, when I had a major breakdown, and that was really major. Over a 2-year period, I was finally diagnosed as bipolar. And going through the process of self-discovery and self-realization, and deciding what I really wanted from life, I got to the point where I started Result CIC. I was one of the founder members of Result CIC 8 years ago. So the next slide, and Jayne will talk to that, please.
Okay, I was trying to think about what could be useful for you all as entrepreneurs, and this is a picture I'm holding up of all of our social impact reports, hard copy, and it's on our website. 2 years ago, we were encouraged to try to put together data about the company, what we do, what we achieve, and some of it's numbers, showing how many people we work with, what we do, how we've used our money. The so-called triple bottom line about the environment, about our social impact, and about our financial impact. And I'd really encourage you, if you don't have something like this to think about that. It's very difficult to gather data, hard data about work like this for people-based, but it's incredibly useful. It's a good way to give evidence of the value of what you do. So just picking out a couple of things. We talked about resilience, and Hormus mentioned that, and that's the theme of today. We've run several major programs for disabled staff at universities and other organisations, BBC. And resilience is something where people's levels went up by 35% during the program. People got promotion, people understood issues more deeply. So the next slide. Sarah, I'm asking for her magic. Thank you, Sarah, you did very much. I've just circled something from the report, which mentions that not just homos and I are disabled, we have other minority experience, and our advisors list all disabled. We've all had quite mainstream experience, like Jacqueline. I know we try to bring all that together to use it to benefit others, so that when people are in the room with us, or maybe online with us, they feel it's really not you and I, and that they feel confident about opening about their story and their experience and how they want to develop. So back over to homos now.
Next slide, please, which is a video. But before you show the video, please, Sarah, I just wanted to say that when COVID arrived and we went into lockdown, we really wanted to do something for people on the front line. And Jayne mentioned that any profits we may have from the projects that we do, we turn back into the community again. And we call that our inclusion fund. And we wanted to use our inclusion fund to be able to coach people who were going out there and dealing with the public on a daily basis. Either, you know, being a shop worker or a nurse or a doctor, we just wanted to help. And here's a video about how we marketed it.
Result CIC Coaching and Training. Free coaching for frontline workers. We are Result CIC, a Manchester-based community interest company working across the UK. We specialise in coaching and training for marginalised people who may feel isolated from society, as well as organisations seeking to bring about positive change and diversity in the workplace. The COVID-19 crisis has made more of us feel isolated than ever, so we are offering free coaching sessions to any frontline workers feeling the pressure of the current situation. Coaching can help you to feel more motivated and less stressed, provide perspective, and offer a path towards feeling better able to cope. We bring our own experience of isolating issues such as disability, immigration, sexuality, and mental health to our coaching style, which is based around support and empathy. So if you or someone you know is helping to keep us all going, a healthcare worker, delivery person, shop worker, a member of the police, and may benefit from free coaching, please get in touch. Go to resultcic.com/COVID-19 for more information.
Thank you very much. And even though this is still ongoing, you know, we haven't quite finished all the work. Jayne and I and some associates worked with the kind of people we talked about, and the feedback in terms of the kind of help it gave them at moments of crisis has been extremely positive. And finally, this is the final slide. These are some of the people that we are working with or have worked with. I would like to highlight one of them, which is the Delta project, as it's called, which is with the civil service. It's for senior managers within the civil service who are all disabled. The first time the civil service has run a program like this. Okay, so just a very quick story in terms of in March, towards the end of March, we had to deliver the second workshop for this program, and it was always going to be face-to-face. We had 10 days notice from the client saying that we had to move it online. And this was a real challenge. Not only was it a challenge, it was a risk for us because of the you know, conditions that we both have, and particularly with Jayne, you know, needing to work with a lip speaker who may have been on another screen, etc. The first one we ran was like that. So we had to not only redesign the workshop but also think about the logistics of delivering it. So, really scary moment, but having done it, the feedback that we got again from the client was extremely good, and thank goodness for Zoom versus Skype is all I can say, because we had to deliver with both platforms, and Zoom has proved extremely useful in us being able to do that. That's my final point. Jayne, did you want to say anything more?
I think just picking up that point, the 2 points about resilience and partnership, we'd love to talk to any of you there and any of your contacts about partnerships, and our job is to support others. That's what we do, where we let people achieve their potential. We'd be delighted to answer questions now or talk to any of you about how this type of support could benefit you. Thank you. Thank you to Hormones and Jacqueline.
Thank you so much. I've been waiting for so long to actually hear more about what you do. And before I bring other people in, what I'd like to say is that what I hope we can do going forward through collaboration is the coaching that you have available may be accessible to some of our entrepreneurs as we move forward, as well as the other very valuable guidance and advice that you bring to the sector that we're working in. If you have a question for Jayne or Hormoz, could you please indicate by putting your arm up, and then I'll ask you to unmute. No? Right? That's always a good sign, actually, of a very, very clear presentation, because it was very, very informative. And I'd just like to thank you so much. And I will get better at pronouncing the name. And also, we will, as I'm sure everybody will do our best to improve in terms of going forward on all of our social media and the virtual things that we do to make it as accessible as possible. And some of that is about lobbying the provider as well and the host, because actually we should be seeing this from them as well. Okay, right. So at this part of our session, our update from Aaron, our health and wellbeing guru.
Thank you, Jacqueline, once again for this opportunity to share, I hope, some wisdom with you all. In light of today with the news that the numbers have fallen from a category 4 to category 3, and the easing of the lockdown, there's so much that we have been through, so much we're going through, and things that we will be going through. And I feel it's important to just share some thoughts here that I've been contemplating myself. The first I'd like to say is it is important not to let past victories or present obstacles keep you from new opportunities. I know that for myself, there are obstacles that I'm facing day in and day out, but if I allow the obstacles to keep me, then they will keep me actually from seeing the new opportunities that lie ahead. So it's important to not allow the obstacles to keep you, or even victories. There are things that many of us, many of you have faced and overcome and become victorious in. But sometimes when those victories happen, it actually limits us to be able to see what new opportunities lie ahead and the way to deal with the new opportunities. So it's important, again, not to let past victories or present obstacles keep you from new opportunities. I don't know about you, but this week the weather has not been very kind for me, and they've actually attempted to inhibit planned activity that's going on at my house, in my business, and in my own health and well-being, fitness and all of that. But rather than let it stop me, and rather than let it stop you, let it be a motivation for you and for me to think outside the box and find a way where there seems to be no way. Or another thought is just take a nap and look forward to what tomorrow brings. Sometimes we can get ourselves so worked up in the inhibitions that are set in life, that we don't know how to rest, but we get all uptight and wound up about things that we can't necessarily change. For example, the downpour of rain, the deluge of rain that we've had this week. I couldn't stop that, neither could you. So rather than get all worked up about it, either find a way around it or take a break, take a nap, and look forward to tomorrow. All right, so thank you so much for this time. I really hope this encourages you in this season that we're in. The light is at the end of the tunnel, so new opportunities are all around. I hope that you can see those new opportunities and seize them. All right, thank you, everybody. Bye.
So at that point, I'd just like to say, from the things that you've heard today, the things that we've discussed, or if there's anything you particularly want to raise with us today, this is your opportunity for the next 5 to 10 minutes. So again, if anybody has any specific questions or anything else that you'd like to raise today. Gosh, you're all being really good today. Usually you're throwing questions at me. So possibly what
Jacqueline, I was just going to say, I really enjoyed the presentation, by the way, and I actually noticed that you had Dada Fest as one of your collaborators, and I actually did some work with them last year, delivering on one of their projects, and I think, Jacqueline, you mentioned that you kind of wanted me to talk a bit about what I did the other day.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and in a way, it kind of links to that. It kind of links to Dada Fest because I was invited to do a trainee, like a traineeship to deliver music lessons to disabled people, and this was all this was set up by a charity called Drake Music, based in London, and they were the ones who paired me with Dada Fest, and then that's how I ended up working with them. So this week there was an initiative launched called We Shall Not Be Removed. I don't know if any of you came across this, and it was basically just to kind of highlight like creative people, disabled creative people and people, working in the arts. And I was invited by Drake Music to kind of do a live performance. Well, not live, but like a pre-recorded performance for them. And it was quite interesting because it was they had like a few different sort of mechanisms that they had to use to get around, like, how would you like deliver a live performance that's completely or as inclusive as possible. And so like kind of from my point of view, what I did was I recorded myself. I recorded like my whole set, and then I'd have like the subtitles underneath, and there was then what I did was I sent that like video file to the Drake Music team, and then they like shared it on their, like, I think they used Zoom, or they used something to like sort of transmit it to Facebook. And also they mentioned there was, because there's like in the comments people can like communicate and talk to each other, and they set up this like a separate link, a separate page, so that anybody who was deaf, who wanted to watch, because in between the performances they do like a talk, a live just like talk and introduce each act, and they had like a link set up which would like type out it. I think it would like kind of auto generate like subtitles, and then it would type out the whole entire performance using this. I don't think it quite worked for music, So like if someone was singing, it wouldn't quite recognize it, which is why I decided to do the subtitles myself. But if someone was talking, it would quite easily be able to pick it up. So I'm just finding. So the "We Shall Not Be Removed" initiative is like well, there's actually more you can read on the website. It was launched on Wednesday, and if you go to drakemusic.org, they have like a whole page dedicated to this, and they said that they have 100 leading disabled artists and cultural leaders, and they sent an open letter to the Secretary of State for Culture, who is Oliver Dowden MP, and this is just to like, I think, spread awareness of like the troubles that disabled people in the arts might be encountering in the kind of current crisis and what's happening, and also like to prioritize involvement of disabled people in the cultural policy, and and I think they do mention about the self-employment income support scheme as well. So I just wanted to kind of raise this and let you know about it, if you hadn't come across it.
I think what we'll do, we'll put that out on the possibly the chat, but also on the LinkedIn page as well, James, because that's really important. Because again, I know at the moment we're looking at entrepreneurship in its broadest context, but for those of you that don't know, we do an annual event that showcases artists that are, we like to just say, a little bit different than excellent. And we usually host that at St George's Hall in Liverpool, which we've not been able to do because of COVID. So it is really important that entrepreneurs are doing so many different things, including within the arts sector. So, we support that wholeheartedly. Did you have a question, Jayne?
It was a while ago. I'm sorry, it's not connected to this. It's a really interesting discussion about the arts. I was actually thinking, Jacqueline, during your presentation about mentoring, because I remembered from the excellent meeting on Tuesday, there were a couple of questions about how us as inclusive entrepreneurs can get access to good mentors. Yes. And I was thinking that there needs to be a mechanism in a way for our sector to also have a positive influence on the mainstream sector. Yes. We often get feedback that the way that smaller, agile organisations can work. It could be good for more mainstream organisations. It was just sort of general thought, really, more than a question. How could we do that? If we have a mentor who's not disabled, they would learn a lot from us too, I think.
I think that's really valid point, and certainly that's why when we talk about the network, we say this is for inclusive entrepreneurs and those who support us, because we have to do it together, and we have valuable, for some people this is a massive learning curve for them as well. And I know certainly within our network, people are only too willing to share and have open and honest conversations and try to give people some guidance and support in actually making the changes. Obviously, the other element of my work within universal inclusion, we do the organisational change frameworks and pathways for people as well, because we have to do this. Yes, for me, we're almost like pioneering, because we see the need to get on and do this rather than wait for perhaps sectors to be open to us within the mainstream. But actually, alongside that, we do have to work with the mainstream to bring about change that will, as we say, bring about an inclusive world. Absolutely. And what we will be doing as we go forward is creating a think tank within our network. So people will have opportunity to really feed in with their expertise as we take that forward. And those are the things that we'll then take forward to the APPG. Okay, right. So And anybody else got any questions before we end our session today? Lady Sharon.
Thank Jayne, and what was the gentleman's name? Sorry. Hermaz. Thank you for your presentation. It was very, very informative.
It was really good. It's you're hiding all that under a bushel. I think you're very, very much like most of us. We just get on and do it. But it's some incredible work. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Bijou, just before we leave, because we're very delighted to have you with us, do you have any questions?
Yes, Jacqueline, just one general question. These particular sessions are held, or how frequently are these sessions held?
Every week, same time, every week. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'll
okay.
be
All
fine.
right. Lovely.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye. Bye.